So today I would like to share with you the hard truth about foster care. I'm gonna journey with you and tell you a little that I know. I've been a foster parent for 9 years, so I'll tell you what have frustrated me, but also maybe I can educate you a little so you can know really how it all works and how we get to be foster parents. This is not based on anyone's experience, just my experience. Also, you have to know that every state and every county has its own rules. So what rules work for me or were against me, let's say in one county, are different than another foster parent in a different county. So rules differ from county to county and state to state. So for me, what I'm familiar with are more of Oklahoma and North Carolina because I began fostering in Oklahoma, and then in North Carolina is where I live and I've been a foster parent for the last almost 6 years. Before you become a foster parent, they have to check everything about you. Financial, you have to be able to pay your own bill and your own insurance. Your house must be in a good foundation or footing in order to truly provide safety for the children. Windows work, fire alarm, you have everything that needs to be safe for a child. If you want 4 kids, you better have at least 4 or 2 extra bedroom. Here's why. If you're planning to have a boy and a girl, they cannot share the same bedroom, even when they are siblings. In North Carolina, any child above 5, you can share with your sister and brother who is 4 and 5. But once you turn 5, then the boy or the girl has to be separated. So that's really how it works, But if you're same gender, you can stay together in the same room. Every foster parent have to be trained. So we are trained in 2 different ways. So you can choose to be a foster parent licensed through the county directly to the government. Like here in North Carolina, it's DSS. Or you can be trained through a private agency. Like me, that means I can take any child within North Carolina. If you're licensed by the county, you can only take the kids in your county. If you're licensed by the agency, you can take kids from anywhere within your state. So when children arrive, most time, there's no information you're given about the child. You cannot blame the social worker. Why? Because the social worker just picked up the child that day. So they don't really know anything about that child. Usually only if they are on medication is the only thing you know. They give you a medication like, hey, he takes this every whatever. That's all. That's all you have. Otherwise, no much information. Most things as foster parents, we are the ones who get to figure out. We find out what the child's need or more about it because they're living with us. So we get to pick up pieces here and there. Not always like they give you a spreadsheet of, hey, here's the information about the child. Or sometimes, they give the child out, maybe it's physical abuse. You find the other abuse that they didn't mention before. The child told you. So you have to inform that to the social worker. So there are so many things that we get to learn about the children that we were not given when we took in the child. Also, when we receive children, basically, most time if they're at school, then we have to figure out where is the child going to school. So that is my responsibility. If the child is not that far from the school, we usually keep them in the school so they can finish at least that semester at school. If they are going to the hospital, we make sure that, hey, if it's close by and it's the same hospital, well, just keep them to the same doctor. The other question is, who transports the child? Well, there are 2 ways you can transport the child. One, you as a foster parent, you can transport the child to the hospital, to the school. Then the other part is when they move far away from school or far away from where they used to live, from one county to the other, what happens? For me as a foster parent, I have to look for a school, look for a new daycare, look for a new doctor, look for a new everything. Most time, even the social workers don't know where you live. And if I wanted to make it a little bit easier for me, I look for doctors or daycare or whatever it needs that is close by, so I don't have to be driving miles away to look for one. The social worker will give you just, suggestion like, hey, here are doctors in your neighborhood. Sometimes they don't know and they are 20 miles away. So what I do for me as a foster parent, I'm the one who gets to look for all those, the daycare, the school, the dentist, we name it all for the child. So I am able to take them where they need to be. If you cannot do it, the social worker always will make sure that child goes to the hospital, the child go to therapy if they need to, and all the appointments they need. For me, I like to take my kids to the doctor because I know them. If there was an issue before, I can explain what happened. But also too, most time I don't have a history. So by me taking them to the hospital, I get to know the history of the child. So there also transportation. There are different ways our kids get to do things. One is visitation, because every week they visit their parent. Also, they go to school. So school, who transport them to school if school is so far away, but they want to keep them in that school? What about other appointments that are really important that they need to keep? So who drives them there? Well, that is the social worker's responsibility. You let them know, like, I cannot. And the state or the county will provide transportation. Here's for me what I don't do. Visitation. Like, I don't need to really, most times, the bio parents don't really know us or don't like us. So from the start, I don't want to cause that friction or make it uncomfortable by me being there. So I would rather let the social worker come and pick up the child and take them to meet their parents. Transportation can be really difficult. Think about if they have to go therapy once a week, they have to go to school, they have to go visit their family once a week. Like, that's a lot of driving. And if you have other kids, it's really impossible to do. So here are also things that I can peer to. There are things that I can visit or be part of. So one of them is court date. Should I go to court to know everything about the child? No. Most time, it's really embarrassing for the family that you get to know the history, because on court day, they give you a rap sheet of what they're going through and what they're facing. To me, I prefer not to for the first 4 or 6 months, because I don't want to paint what I'm hearing and have that ill feelings with the parents and the kids, So for me, I prefer to not know until later. Also, at court date, you don't always have to go, but you can call in, They'll give you a phone call and time, so you can call in and you get to hear rather than being there. So for me also, if I have kids who are above 13 years old, I prefer for them to listen. Here's why. Some of my kids, sometimes they blame me. I am the problem. Like, you're the one stopping me from going home. You're the one not letting me call my mom. My mom loves me so much, you're getting in the way. So I become the problem. But because we're trying to protect them, we don't really expose them to everything the parents are going through. So that is part of the really being a parent that is really, really hard as a foster parent. That I know what's happening and I have to protect the child, but I can't tell them everything the parents are doing. But here's for me what I do. If they are 13 years old, I want them to listen, or if I go to court, they come with me. Here's why. I want them to hear it from first hand. I don't want to tell them something, or I don't want to assume that I can know. Like, I want them. I think at 13, they're old enough to listen and know what the parents are doing to get them back. And usually for me, I feel like they're old enough to go to court date or to listen to that phone call so they can hear it from the lawyer, the judge, and their own parents talking to them. And then after, I get to go so I can get to learn what happened and what the issues and how can I advocate for the parents as well. But most time, I just wait for a little bit. Therapists. Who takes the kids to therapists? Most kids go therapists, absolutely, which for me is really helpful for me. So I prefer to go so I can get to explain, but also get to learn, be given a little bit of, hands-on things I can use to help my kid. Since most time I don't know them and I'm learning about them along the way. I am 99.9% responsible for the child. Going to the doctor, where they eat, behavior, like I have to deal and help the child because in some way they're like my children in a way. Here's a part that is really hard as a foster parent. When it comes to decision making for the child, my decision or my opinion matters zero. I'm not kidding. That you get to be the one responsible for the child in every way, shape, form. But you even know where they're failing and you know how they can get better. And you're there in the trenches with them. You're learning. But when it comes to making decisions, either by the judge, you are never considered as a contributor. Zero. So here are the people who can talk for the child or on behalf of the child. The gala, guardian ad litem. They visit me once a month for 1 hour. They make notes, they ask me where the kids go to school. I tell them, I tell them all that. And the social work comes every month, makes a report. I tell them. They are the only ones they can face the judge and say, here's what is happening to the child. Even when I'm sitting there and there's nothing I can do. So that's why sometimes they make a decision to take the child away or to make the decision for the child. And for us as foster parents, we are like, what? Where did you come up with that? How long does the child stay? Like most of you have asked me, how long does the child stay? Well, this is the most frustrating thing. Most time they come and say, hey, Peter, can you have the child for a weekend or even for a week? And I say, absolutely. That week comes, nothing. The next week comes, nothing. And you've already connected with the child is already in school, and you're kind of left, I don't want to destroy the child's journey. I'm going to keep them, or I'm going to keep helping, because no one tells you when. And even when they know, they don't tell you when the child is going to stay, how long they're going to stay. Like in my case, most of my kids have come to know what's gonna happen 3 years later. 3 years later that we passed the threshold, the required time. Like I advocate for kids to go back. Like I really do advocate for kids to go back to their bio parent. But the system and the way it's done, it's just so unfair to the child too. The child for so long, they are living in the limbo. Am I going home? Am I staying? No, I cannot get attached to this family because I'm going home. But that's 3 months down the road. And then a year later, well, I can't be attached to them because I'm going home. Well, nothing. 2 years later, I can't get attached to them because I'm going home. Now you see why our kids live in the limbo. Here's the other part I want to share with you. Many of us, we hear voices from all over the place. Well, let me tell you what the children hear from different people. There's me as a foster parent. I get to be the dad every day. But voice one. And then they have their bio parents who they get to meet once a week or every other week. That's another voice. So you have me, who sometimes don't have the answer for them, but they have parents see on the other side saying, I'm doing everything I can. I'm going to have you back. And then you have voice number 3, the social worker. The social worker says, no, that isn't happening anytime soon. So you can see the confusion for the child. Wait, I have a foster parent saying I am doing well. You have mom and dad who's saying they're doing everything they can to get me back. Even most time they're doing zero, nothing. But to the child, the truth is what mom says is true. And then you have the social worker on the other side saying, I don't know. Tell me as a kid, who do you trust? Like who do you listen to? And here's the other part too. Some of us who have kids who meet their siblings in different places. So they get to meet other social workers who have their siblings on once a week. Or sometimes they have also another voice somewhere there. As a kid who's in foster care, think about how that's confusing. Yeah, you get to hear different stories about your future, but no one tells you which one is real. And here's the ugliest part too, as well, is they meet their parents at their best. For them to meet their parents, the parents have to come to the social worker office. So they come to DSS and they're monitored by the police, by everyone. Everyone is there, watching them on camera. So they are the worst behavior. They have the best sweets. So the only time the child has seen mom, they're in good mood, they're happy, they're in a safe place, they blow sweets and all that. Tell me, I will be hopeful too. I'll be hopeful if that's the only thing I saw every time I saw my mom. But most time, it's not really true. And I want to be honest. Sometimes they weren't high last night because they knew today was visitation. So they're like, I wanna show up sober. And that's what the kid gets to see for 1 hour. Why wouldn't you believe your mom and dad are doing the best they can if that's the only way? That is the hardship of being a foster parent. That's the irony and the hard sometimes that I have no answer to any question or to my children. That's the truth. That's the truth of being a foster parent. Thank you for watching. We appreciate you, our village.
When I was a kid, I didn't have a place to call home, and so that's what we're trying to do here is promote those room makeovers and such to help kids find a forever home.
Absolutely. We want to do room makeovers for mostly teens and foster parents. And here's how you can help you. You can donate by clicking the link in the bio so we can do more room makeovers for teens so they feel they are heard, seen, and known. We cannot do it alone. With your help, we will truly help as many teens as we can.
Yep.